My name is Mike Monteforte. I'm an estate planning and elder law attorney with an office over in Woburn. Next to me is my colleague, attorney Amanda Wood. We do estate planning and elder planning all day, every day. So this is what we specialize in. This is what we do. This is all we do. And so, we're asked to speak at senior centers, other places around Massachusetts, where we talk to folks about everything from estate planning basics into more sophisticated stuff like long-term care and Medicaid, those sort of things as well. So we're going to touch on a bunch of different things today. The seminar is going to be recorded, so we're going to be able to share that recording with anybody that either has to log out at some point and this is the end. We'll have it available for anybody that asks us for it. What I like to do is start with a little bit of a story for anybody that doesn't know me, and kind of how I got into this work, and why it is that I chose estate planning and elder law as what my life's work would be. And it started some years ago with my grandparents. So I come from a big, loud Italian family. Big Sunday dinners at my grandparents' house every week. She cooked for 19, 20 people every single Sunday, and whoever else, happened to show up that day as well. So we're just, kind of a very close-knit group, really involved in each other's lives, and work together all the time. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. They had 3 daughters, so the place was filled with, cousins and aunts and uncles, and, it was a loud, crazy dinner every Sunday at my grandparents' house. They're from Everett. My family is all from Everett, Massachusetts, so that's where we used to meet and where she would cook for everyone. I was really close with my grandfather, my grandmother as well. They've both since passed. But years ago, when they were still here, my grandfather got sick. He started to have some issues with memory, which at first, we thought were just issues because he was in his 90s. And like any 90-year-old, they may not remember everything or be, have as sharp a memory as they did in the past. But over time, those issues started to get worse, and we became concerned that something else was going on. And really, it took a while to get him diagnosed, because at the beginning of his dementia, he would have good days and bad days. And at the beginning, he had more good days than bad days. So he'd be fine. We'd think everything was okay. We'd send him to the doctors. They'd say he was fine. And then the next day, he'd be confused again. Or he was starting to get lost driving home from places he'd been, a million times. And as the situation progressed and he slowly began to get worse, it got to the point where my grandmother really couldn't take care of him by herself anymore. He was getting confused between day and night, and would get up in the middle of the night and go down to the kitchen and start cooking. Things like that, where it just became a little bit too much for her to be able to handle on her own. So they decided that they were going to sell the condo where they lived, and they were going to move into an assisted living facility. My grandmother, mentally, she was fine. She had some physical issues with mobility, but my grandfather was the opposite. He was physically very healthy, but the dementia was it was taking him away from us a little at a time. So they sold their condo, they moved into an assisted living facility, and they were trying to figure out at that point, especially as my grandfather was getting worse, and we realized that he was going to need more care, a higher level of care than what you'd get, in a retirement community, or even in a lot of assisted living facilities. We were trying to figure out, my grandmother was concerned about the money and, how they could possibly protect their life savings. Their condo had been paid off, they sold it, They both worked very hard all of their lives, so they had amassed some money that was in the bank, plus the sale of the condo. And that was everything that they had in the world. It was their life savings, sitting in the bank. And my grandmother was trying to figure out a way to protect it if possible, as well as making sure that my grandfather had the care that he needed. I had always done some estate planning work in my practice, but I had decided that I really needed to help my grandparents, and that I needed to figure out how to do this, and that I needed to learn everything I could about it, so that I could help them. They had been there for me for my whole life, and it was my turn to turn around and do something for them. So I dove into it head first. I took every class, I read every book, I did every continuing education seminar that you could possibly do, because I really wanted to put myself in the position to help them as best I could. Sadly, one of the things that I realized as I learned more and more about estate planning and elder law is that pre-planning is the key for a lot of this. And if you don't plan early, if you don't plan ahead and you're late to the game, it's much, much harder to protect your assets, protect your life savings, protect your home once we get to the point that someone is in need of long-term care. They were already paying out at an assisted living facility in Woburn. The two of them were together in one unit, but as my grandfather got worse, he needed to move into memory care. So we had my grandmother in one unit, we had my grandfather in a different unit in memory care. And so now they weren't paying for one unit anymore, they were paying for two, and the costs were just astronomical. And we watched, month by month as their life savings in a bank account just started to dwindle. It was just a huge hit every single month. Luckily, I was able to help them with moving some of their money around and protecting some of their assets. But because we were so late to the game and the specialized care that my grandfather needed, there was only so much I could do at that point. And by the time my grandfather finally passed, most of their money was gone. They had a little bit left, and at that time, my grandmother was still in her assisted living unit. Physically, she wasn't in a position where she could come and live with one of us. She needed the care that was provided at the assisted living, and even though we were paying for one unit instead of two, it was just a huge drain on all the cash that they had amassed over the course of their lives. At the end, by the time my grandmother finally passed, about a year after my grandfather, she was 93, we had about 3 months left of money in her account to be able to pay for her assisted living. And if she had lived those additional 3 months, she was going to have to move. And we were going to have to move her to a facility that took Medicaid, because the facility where she was and where she had lived for the past couple of years did not accept Medicaid as a form of payment, and she was out of money. The end for her was really hard because she couldn't do, the Christmas gifts like she did every year for all the kids and the grandkids and the great grandkids. It was really hard on her because a big part of, what she wanted to do was provide for everybody else and not herself. So being able to give Christmas gifts and birthday gifts and wedding gifts and things like that to her family was really, really important to her. And at the end, when she was down to only having a few months left of money to pay for her assisted living, it was really hard on her. It was very difficult for her to come to grips with the fact that, she and my grandfather, after working their whole lives, and my grandfather being a World War II veteran, just didn't have anything left to share with their family because, all of their money was spent on their care. When my grandmother passed, she was 93, and although I was able to, do some things for them and help them a little bit, because we were late to the game, it was much harder. But I had decided in the course of helping them that this is what I wanted to focus my life's work on. And so at that point, I was general practice. I did a lot of estate planning, but I cut everything else out of my practice. This was some years ago now. And specialized just in estate planning, elder planning, Medicaid planning, asset protection, wealth protection from there on out. So those are the only types of cases that we accept. That's the type of work that we do day in and day out. The reason for that is in order to be good at this stuff, you really have to focus on it. The landscape changes all the time. It's seldom that a week doesn't go by that we find some new wrinkle in the law or in the way that the courts are interpreting cases or the way that they're interpreting rules about long-term care. So in order to be good at this, you really have to focus on it. We have to attend continuing education stuff all the time so that we're always on top of the changes in the law. And, in my opinion, if you're trying to do this plus divorce, plus DUIs, plus, real estate, it's just impossible. There aren't enough hours in the day to stay on top of, what's required to really be, good at this field. I also realize that, I help a lot of people that are in the same position that my grandparents were. And so even though, what I was able to do for them was limited, me being able to help other folks that are in the, same place that they were, it's almost like I'm helping them as well. And I try to think, that I'm making them proud still, and that somehow, some way they know that, and that, because of them getting me into this, I'm able to turn around and we help a lot of people. It's the best part of my favorite part about what I do anyway is just being able to take some of the burdens away from folks and really being able to ease their fears and the load that they're carrying when it comes to this stuff, because it's confusing. People don't know what to do. They don't know how to navigate everything from a simple estate planning down to long-term care, and being able to help them with that. It's a part of my job that I take the biggest pride in anyway. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about some estate planning basics, what makes up the estate plans that we do. So everything from wills and powers of attorney and that sort of thing. We're going to talk a little bit about trusts, and then we're going to talk a little bit about long-term care. Now, most of what we're talking about today is going to be general information, because the true fact about all this is that everybody's different. Everybody's family is different. Everybody's financial situation is different. And so for us to speak in very, very specific terms, it's not possible, because what might be true for one person's situation could be completely different for someone else's. So we'll speak a lot in the way that the general rules apply to everybody, but when it comes to specific solutions and specific recommendations that we might make, those types of things are handled on a one-on-one basis. So when someone comes in to see us, we talk about things specific to them. What do their finances look like? What are their priorities? What are their goals? What are their concerns? Family makeup, that sort of thing. And then we create custom solutions and recommendations for that person or that family. And no two sets of recommendations are the same, because no two families are the same, no two families' finances are the same. So to get the really specific information that we can apply to you, you got to come in and see us. But let us, give you some general information today so you can learn a little bit about, how estate planning works, how important it is to plan ahead, and what some of the solutions are that we use every day when we help people. So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to let Amanda get into some of the details about wills and powers of attorney and some of the documents that create the basis for any estate plan that we do. And then from there, we build off of those documents and get into things like trusts and that sort of thing, depending on whether that individual or family is in need of that sort of thing. So that's how I got into it. Amanda in a minute is going to be able to tell you a little bit about herself, just a little bit more about me. I've been a lawyer for 20 years. I've had my own practice for 15 years. I'm married. I have 2 kids. I live in Wilmington, Mass. Both my kids are in high school. They are starting their college search, and I'm hoping that at least one of them is going to follow me into this so that they can come in and I can, take a break, and they can come in here and Amanda can teach them how to do it and let me catch my breath and rest a little. So anyway, that's just a little bit about me. I'm passionate about this. I love to talk about it. There's going to be time at the end where anybody that wants to ask us questions is going to be able to do that. We'll get to that part at the end, but we'll make sure we save time for everybody to do that. So Amanda, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can talk a little bit about you, talk a little bit about the estate plans that we do, and then we'll kind of go from there. So I'm going to just kind of adjust this a little bit to make sure that everybody can see you.
All right.
All right.
Okay, so just a little bit about me. I started here at Monteforte Law earlier this year. I have always wanted to do estate planning since I was in law school. I really found my passion for it there. But the more I thought about it, the more I also realized how much estate planning had been involved in my life, even from a young age, without me even really realizing it. So like Mike said, there's a lot of reasons that people get involved in this line of work and a lot of reasons that you might come in to see us to do an estate plan. And one of the biggest ones is to make sure that your family is taken care of. So my story started out when I was really young. My dad passed away when I was only 2 years old. My sister was 3. And, it was just my mom trying to take care of 2 little kids. So she always felt that it was really important to tell us about the big things. She wanted us to know what was going on in our lives, and she never felt like she had to keep things a secret from us. So after my dad was gone, it was really important to her that we always knew no matter what happened, we would be taken care of. So, of course, when we were younger, more of that conversation was about, who we would live with if something ever happened to her, who would take care of us, where would we go to live? Would someone come live with us, for example? Would we go to them? And that changed over the years because, we had people in our family other than my dad pass away. So this was something that it was a continuing conversation in my life as I was, a young kid and then, growing into a teenager also. So as an adult, what's been interesting to me is to see that these aren't conversations that everybody had in their own families, and that having this type of conversation with your parents was really unique to my situation. So again, it's just something that I've realized over time. This aspect of estate planning has really been involved in my life, even without me knowing, for a really long time, especially in a way that maybe wasn't so for a lot of other people. And something else I've realized more as an adult and now an attorney who specializes in this field is, as much as my mom always discussed with us who our guardians would be, what she didn't always bring up was finances. That's not something you have to talk to your kids about, but I realize now that a lot of what she was doing was making sure that what assets we had, what my dad left behind and what she was able to acquire, being a full-time working mother of 2, that those assets and the finances would also be all set for us. If something happened to her, her assets needed to be in line so that we would always be taken care of, and the people taking care of us would have some money there. And so that's something that's definitely come to light for me, working in this field now. So, while our situation was somewhat unique or unusual, having a parent pass away at a really young age, that definitely doesn't happen to a lot of people. But what never really goes away is that desire to continue to take care of your family after you're gone. And that's what I see a lot of now being involved in this line of work is people come in and one of their biggest goals, no matter how old their kids are or their family or their loved ones, is after I'm gone, I want to make sure that the people I love are taken care of. So that's one of the biggest goals that we are, looking to accomplish when someone comes to see us for an estate plan. So one thing we always talk about when people come to see us is, if they have young kids, do they have a plan for their kids? Do they know who's going to be taking care of them? How will you safeguard your funds to make sure that your funds are being used only for your children's care, not going to a guardian, for example, and letting them use the funds on themselves or their other children? What steps have you put in place to make sure that your money is protected for your kids? And these are things that you want to have the answers to now while you can still make the decision and make sure that your wishes are carried out, while you can still put your wishes in writing so that everybody knows if something happens to you, what your wishes were. Even if you don't have a young family, there are a lot of ways that having a good up-to-date estate plan can benefit your family and your loved ones after you're gone. So what can happen if you don't have an estate plan, for example? Well, first, long, messy, expensive probate, for example. A lot of people come in and they say, we don't want to leave a headache for our loved ones after we're gone. Well, one of the best things we can do is to help streamline that process by making sure that you have an up-to-date estate plan. If you don't have any estate planning done, for example, you're definitely going to be leaving behind a headache for your loved ones. So that's not something we want to do. What else can happen if you don't have an estate plan? Well, here's a big question. How do you know who will act for you if something happens to you? How do you know who will make decisions, act on your behalf? How do you know it'll be someone you trust, someone who you've shared your wishes with, who knows how you would decide, whether it's a legal decision or a healthcare decision? How do you know it's somebody that you trust will be making those decisions for you? The short answer is you don't really know that unless you've named someone. And one of the biggest things that people come in and tell us is that no matter what happens, what they want to avoid above all else is arguing. They have this family that they've raised, and they say, right now everybody gets along, but I don't want them to argue after I'm gone. Or if something happens to me and somebody needs to make a decision for me, I don't want them to argue about what the right decision is. And that's a huge concern. People want their families to come together to make the right decisions. But the best thing that they can do, again, is to put all these decisions in writing. And most people who come in and say this to us are people who have seen it happen before. So I think everybody knows someone in their life who had a happy family and then they had something happen and all of a sudden the arguing started because nothing was in writing, their wishes weren't documented, and no one could agree on what they wanted. So the questions that we're looking to answer when you come in to do an estate plan, for example, are, where do my assets go after I'm gone? How do we avoid arguing over actual property after I'm gone? What happens to me if I'm incapacitated? How do we avoid disagreements, even among people who are all seeking to do the best and the right thing, people who are all honestly acting out of the goodness of their hearts? How do we avoid disagreements when it comes to making decisions for you, even if you're still here? The best thing you can do in any of these situations, again, is to make sure that you have an up-to-date estate plan. Make sure that your estate plan is meeting all of your needs, depending on your individual family needs, on your assets, all those types of things. So the best thing you can do is to come in and see an estate planning lawyer, set up a strategic planning session to make sure that all of your wishes are documented. So what we'll always suggest is starting with your base documents. So these are the ones that everybody's going to need, no matter the size of your estate, the complexity, the individual needs of your family. So the first part of your base plan is, I think we have somebody in the waiting room. Let somebody in here. Sorry, excuse me. There we go. So the base documents here, we call them our big three documents. The first one is going to be your will. So that determines what happens with your assets after you're gone. Who do you decide are going to be your beneficiaries, and who are you designating to deal with your estate after you're gone? Again, this is how you avoid the arguing amongst your family, especially as to assets and the distribution of your property after you're gone. The second one of our big three is the power of attorney. So the power of attorney is the document that says who can make more legal decisions for you. If something happens to you and you haven't passed away, but you're incapacitated. So you can't make decisions for yourself anymore for whatever reason, but somebody needs to pay your bills or do your banking or talk to your insurance. Who's the person who you've designated to do that, to act for you, and make those decisions for you? The third of our big three is our healthcare proxy. At our office, we also include other health related documents, so you get a healthcare package from us. So the healthcare proxy is specific as to your healthcare wishes. So who can make specifically healthcare decisions for you? Again, only in the event that you cannot. This is again a really big one when people are considering, avoiding arguing. And again, this is the one that, if people are going to butt heads over, what mom and dad would have wanted, for example, this is one that a lot of people are going to have trouble with because, everybody wants to do what's right. Usually in this situation, but the more we can have in writing, the more specific we can make your healthcare proxy, as to your own wishes, the more we can avoid this sort of arguing. The more we can put in guidance, especially as to what your specific wishes are, the more there doesn't need to be any debate if something does happen to you. So the healthcare proxy is a really important document to make as specific to you as you can. So, all right. So these documents are also where you'll do things like nominate guardians for any minor children that you have. We'll address any sort of other specific needs there. Again, this is how you're going to make sure that your family is taken care of after you're gone, or even if you're incapacitated, you're making sure that you're caring for your family by helping to avoid this arguing. So from there, we start with that base package of documents, and then we look to see, okay, is there anything else that we need to resolve for you? What other, larger needs do you have other than those base concerns of where do my assets go or who takes care of me if I'm incapacitated? So depending on your needs, there's a lot of other tools we can use. Typically what we're looking to do is a trust in a lot of cases. But again, there's 1,000 different types of trusts for 1,000 different types of needs that you have. So this is typically a really personal conversation depending on your needs and your goals. A really common type of trust that we're going to use is it's called a family trust. So this is useful for a lot of reasons, which is why it's so common. One reason it's really helpful is to assist in avoiding probate. It avoids cost, time, smoother process for your loved ones after you're gone. If you can title assets in the name of your trust and avoid probate using the trust. Another reason the family trust is usually really helpful is especially if you have minor children or people who are maybe lacking in financial responsibility and they're, not someone who should get a lump sum of money. Maybe there's concerns so-and-so would spend it all at once, for example. What the family trust allows us to do is to give distributions to these people over time. So especially, I think back to myself, when I was just a kid, my mom had these things in place so that, if something happened to her, we wouldn't get a lump sum of money all at once, that we would be able to develop our financial responsibility and get some of these distributions over time, as we developed as adults. So that's something that's really important to use the family trust for, is especially protecting that money over time. And you also have a trustee in charge, so somebody who's overseeing these distributions using their discretion, for example, in making these distributions. And again, you can use any sort of guidelines that you're looking for there also. So we have quite a few people who, when leaving money to their kids, are concerned about things like education. So a trust is really useful if you want to put more conditions or guidelines on distributions, and distribute over time in accordance with these guidelines. Then from there, there's a lot, again, of other different types of trusts we can use depending on your individual needs. So we have a lot of clients who come to us because they know they'll have estate tax issues after they're gone. They want to be able to preserve a lot of money to be able to pass on to their family rather than paying it to the government, for example, in the form of an estate tax. So there's different types of tools that we can use specifically to help reduce the estate tax. One is called a credit shelter trust. There's other additional tools you can use, an irrevocable life insurance trust, for example, if you have large life insurance policies. But these are, again, all depending on your needs. Again, one of the more common trusts that we'll see is called a supplemental needs trust. So this is a type of trust that you would use if you have someone who is on government benefits, for example, and you want to leave them something, but you want to make sure that they don't lose their government benefits if you hand them a lump sum of money. So depending on your needs, we can find a trust or an estate planning tool that will work for your scenario. But these, again, are all questions that we would answer in a really one-on-one session, and we would learn about all of your needs and come up with a plan from there.
All right, that's a ton of info. So I think what we'll do is we'll jump into some of the discussion about long-term care. Just to piggyback on what Amanda was saying about trusts, again, a million different kinds for a million different purposes. It's our job when we meet you and we review your finances and your family situation, it's our job to come up with what the best solution for you is. So, Amanda mentioned estate taxes. Well, we live in Massachusetts, and a lot of people don't even realize that they're going to be subject to estate taxes. And Massachusetts has a really low threshold for estate taxes. It's among the lowest in the country. And so what happens there is, it's not really publicized. People don't know about it. They're not aware of it. So they don't plan for it. They don't put the proper tools in place to help reduce or eliminate their estate taxes. And then what happens is when the government comes, and they'll come, looking for their money, there's a big bite taken out of what they thought they were passing on to their family, what they thought they were giving to their kids or their other beneficiaries, just gets this big chunk taken out by either the federal government or the state government or both, because they weren't aware of what the estate tax situation, what the rules are and what it looks like and how to cut that down. So one of the things that we do when we have a session with someone that comes in to see us is we run real numbers to tell anybody that comes to see us exactly where they stand with their assets when it comes to things like estate taxes. Would they be subject to estate taxes or not? And if they were going to be subject to estate taxes, how much? Is it a little small amount of money? Is it a couple of $1,000 that maybe isn't that big of a deal and we don't care about? Or is it 50,000 or 90,000 or six figures or more? And they definitely do get into the six figures plus. And so a lot of times when we tell people, look, the way you sit today, if you do no planning, you're going to be looking at a six-figure estate tax bill. Most people's eyes, go wide because they had no idea. Then from there, we look at, well, how can we help? Can we take that estate tax bill that might be six figures and knock it all the way down to zero? And a lot of times we can. We might have to use multiple tools in order to be able to do that. Even in situations where the amount of assets that a person has don't allow us to knock the estate tax bill all the way to zero, most of the time we can significantly reduce it. Take a bill that's in $100,000 and knock it down by 80-90%, so that we're looking at a much smaller piece of the pie and increasing the shares that the kids or the other family members would get. So that's one of the things that we go through when you come in and have a session with us. We request certain information from you ahead of time so that we can review it. We're aware of all that information when you come in, and then we spend that 1 hour meeting focusing specifically on you, your family, and solutions that we've already thought about before you even walked in the door. So I'm going to start talking about long-term care. I will say that anybody that stays on till the end, we've got a couple of special offers that we're going to make for anybody that's attended the seminar today with regard to doing a session with us and obtaining some other resources that we have that we make available for no charge. So I'll go over that at the end. First, let's talk a little bit about long-term care. All right, this is one of the most confusing aspects of estate planning because it seems to be in a state of flux. And I talked to this person, they told me this. I talked to someone else, they told me something different. So trying to keep this all straight is difficult for people. It's confusing. What I will say is navigating the landscape of long-term care is not something that you want to do alone. Whether you're hiring us or you're hiring somebody else, hire an expert and rely on that expert's advice. Don't try and go this alone. There's just too much there. And if you're not trained to deal with this stuff all the time, you're going to miss something. So long-term care can mean a lot of different things. When people hear long-term care, they think nursing home. And that is one type of long-term care, but there are other types of long-term care as well. Some of which can be covered by the government, some of which aren't. So assisted living is a type of long-term care, nursing home is a type of long-term care, and even care in your home designed to help keep you in your home and out of a nursing home, that's long-term care as well. So a few different types, but regardless of what kind we're talking about, there's 3 ways to pay, that's it, 3. The first is through insurance. If you've got long-term care insurance, it's designed to pay for some form of long-term care for you, whether it's care in the home or assisted living or nursing home type of care. Most long-term care insurance policies will cover any type of long-term care, but they have limits. They'll only pay out a certain amount per day, only a certain amount per month, and then they have an overall cap where once they pay out X amount of dollars and reach that cap, the policy is void and goes away. One of the problems with long-term care insurance is it's cost prohibitive for a lot of people. The older you get, the more expensive it is, and it ends up being more expensive to even be worth it in a lot of cases. So, it's one of those things that it's a great thing if you have it, but going out and trying to investigate it now, once you're even into your 40s, the price really goes up. And at the same time, the coverage that you get for what you're paying out might be $100 a day, $150 a day. The average nursing home care cost in Massachusetts is over $400 a day. Most of them around here, around kind of the Wilmington area, are closer to $500 a day. So long-term care insurance, if you have it, might pay a little piece, but there's still a whole bunch more most of the time that needs to be paid for. There are some life insurance plans that carry a long-term care component. That's a newer product in the life insurance world. So if your life insurance policies are years and years old, you probably don't have that. However, it is something that you can typically add, and it's not a hugely expensive add-on. It tends to be cheaper than long-term care insurance. So if you've got life insurance policies that are been hanging around for a while, it's worth a look or a call to your life insurance agent to see if a long-term care rider could be added, or even taking a new policy with a long-term care rider being added to it. Again, that's a newer development. So if your policy's older than the last 2 or 3 years, and it's highly unlikely they have it, but it's worth looking into. Some people have this coverage and they don't even know that they have it. So first way to pay for long-term care is through insurance. The second way is to pay out of pocket, right? So spending your assets to pay for your care, whether it's in-home care, assisted living care, or nursing home care. So you take the money that you made over, the entirety of your life, and you spend that to pay for your care. The third way to pay for long-term care is through Medicaid. Medicaid is a federal program, but The federal program is administered on a state-by-state basis, and here in Massachusetts, Medicaid long-term care is administered through Mass Health. Mass Health will provide coverage for a stay in a nursing home if you qualify. They'll provide coverage for in-home care if you qualify, but the way it sits right now, they do not provide coverage for assisted living. So it's one or the other. It's in-home care or it's at the other end of the spectrum for nursing home care and nothing in between. Now that's changing. There are new programs that come about all the time. So, next week I might be telling you something different, that there is some, Medicaid benefit available for some of those types of long-term care that's in the middle. But right now we've got in-home care and we've got nursing home care. And Medicaid's take on things is, yeah, we'll pay for long-term care for you when you're broke. Okay, so spend your money. Whatever you made or during the course of your life, whatever you've got in the bank, when you need long-term care, you have to spend it. You can't turn around and give it to your kids. You can't turn around and gift it away. Spend it on your care. And when you're broke, when you got nothing left or almost nothing left, come see us and then we'll provide benefits to you. So if you worked and saved for your entire life, Medicaid, Mass Health, they don't want to know you, okay? If you never worked and never saved anything or went to Foxwoods every weekend and spent every dime that you ever made, I get you covered tomorrow for long-term care. But if you acquired assets and you're hoping to leave some money behind for your kids or other beneficiaries, you're their prime target, okay? They don't want to help you until you've got nothing left. So then we turn to, can we position your assets in such a way that we can protect them, that we can shield them in some way from Medicaid and Mass Health so that we can still get you qualified. You've paid into the system your entire life, okay? If you've lived in Massachusetts for a long time, you've been paying taxes your entire life. You've been paying more taxes than most people that live in other parts of the country. So you're entitled to those benefits, but you have to meet these strict guidelines that they have. So we look at, okay, our one option is to spend everything, and when we've got nothing left, go see Medicaid and then have them pay. But if we plan ahead, if we plan early enough, can we protect assets? And then the answer is yes, in most cases we can. One of the most frequent questions we get is people asking us about protecting their home. So if I have to go into nursing home care, can I protect it in some way from the nursing home, from Medicaid, from Mass Health, so that even if everything else is gone, I can pass my house on to my kids and they can keep it or they can sell it, do what they want and get some money that way. And the answer is yes, we can protect your home, but the caveat is that you have to plan ahead. It's not something that in most instances you can do last minute. So if you or mom or dad need to go into nursing home care next week rather, it's much more difficult for us to protect your home because our options are very, very limited at that point. That's what we call crisis planning. We've got someone that's going into long-term care right now. There are a few, loopholes might not be the right word, but there are a few exceptions in the law that allow you to protect your home, but they're very, very specific and they don't apply to most people, okay? So when it comes down to crisis planning, we look at, hey, can we fit you into any of these exceptions? But most of the time, we can't, and we're stuck with, well, we could get you approved for long-term care, but you've got this house, and maybe we can make it so that they can't force you to sell it, but they're going to put a lien against the place. And they're going to put a lien against the property for every dime that they pay out on your behalf, plus interest that accrues every single day. And then when you die and that property is sold, they're coming and looking for that money back. Okay, so at the cost of long-term care in Massachusetts, especially long-term care in a nursing home, $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 a month, we can burn through people's home equity very, very quickly at those kind of rates, and then those costs aren't going down. All right, they're just they're continuing to go up, and they're going to continue to go up. where if we do nothing and you own a home and you've worked and paid that home off, whether you've got a mortgage, a small mortgage, or you have no mortgage, again, they're salivating when they see you at Medicaid, because they know they're going to put a lien against the house, they're going to get all their money back, and they're going to make interest off of it too. So it's not just enough that they can take all of the equity that you made in your house, but they're going to get interest on it as well. So you're not just paying them back, they're going to make money on top of it. But if we plan ahead, there are things we can do to protect your house. Now, Amanda talked a little bit about trust. There are other types of trust that we use specifically for protecting your home from long-term care. The shorthand around here, we tend to call them Medicaid trusts, because most of the time that's what they're designed to do, is to protect your home from Medicaid. But the reason that that has to be done early is because Mass Health and Medicaid have what's called a 5-year look back. And that's a term some of you may have heard before. And what that means is the day you go in and apply for long-term care benefits, they're allowed to look back at the previous 5 years at any transactions that you made. And they do look. You have to supply them with 5 years worth of bank statements, and they will look through every single line of those bank statements to determine if you gave any money away. All right, their take on it is, well, you can't give your money away and then turn around and ask us to pay for your care. So they're looking, did you give money away? Did you give money to your kids? Did you give your house to your kids? Did you put it in their names instead of yours? And if you did any of those things, they can either disqualify you or they can assess penalty periods. And what that means is, yeah, we're gonna approve you for long-term care benefits, but we're not gonna pay for the first X number of days or months or even years, depending on the amount of money that they determine that you gave away. They have a calculation where the number of dollars is equal to a number of days. So if you gave your house away, you gave your house to your kids, and there's $500,000, $600,000 of equity in that house, even if they ultimately approve you for long-term care benefits, you're going to be 2 years in before the benefits will actually start. And if you say, well, I don't have any other way to pay, what am I supposed to do? They're going to tell you that's your problem. Go see your kids and get the money back. You shouldn't have gave it away. All right. So because of this 5-year look back, any planning tools that we use to try and protect assets, we've got to do it early. We've got to do it, as early as possible to get that 5-year clock ticking. Obviously, none of us knows what's going to happen tomorrow. None of us has a crystal ball. We don't know when we're going to need long-term care, but we want to try and plan while we're healthy. We don't want to wait till we're sick or till someone's starting to show signs of dementia. And then other things like accidents or strokes, we don't have any warning for most of those things. So the idea is to plan while you're healthy. We take one of these Medicaid trusts. It's a very detailed technical document. It's got to be done perfectly to comply with all their rules and regulations. So it's not something that you want your DUI lawyer doing or your divorce lawyer doing. Have an expert do this for you. Have an attorney that specializes in this type of work if you're going to do a Medicaid trust. I can't tell you how many times we have people come in who think their homes are protected, right? They'll say, I'm all set, my house is in a trust. And Amanda or I will say, why don't you let us take a look at it? And a lot of the time I have to be the bearer of bad news and say, yeah, your house is in a trust, but it's the wrong type of trust. It's not going to protect the house the way you think. And even though you maybe did it 10 years ago, well, because it wasn't done right, your 5-year clock never started. So even though it's been 5 years since you put the property in this trust, because it's the wrong type of trust, we have to start all over again with a brand new 5 years, because that time never started to tick. So it's got to be done right, but when done properly, I think is the best way to protect your house. You put the home into this trust. Once it's in there for 5 years, it's shielded from Medicaid, Mass Health. They can't count the house against you as an asset. They can't put a lien against it. As far as they're concerned, because the property is in trust, and we do the trust in such a way that meets all of their regulations, it's not yours. That's how they look at it. They look at it like, once we hit that 5-year mark, it's not your asset. Now, in reality, it still is your asset. You control it. You can do whatever you want with it. You can sell it. You can mortgage it. You can downsize and buy something else. Control still stays with you. But because of this trust document, Mass Health can't count the property against you. All right, so using a Medicaid trust is one of the primary ways that we use to protect your assets. It can be used for other assets as well. It can be used to protect cash. The rules for cash are a little bit different than they are with real estate. And that's something that we would talk about in detail with you when you come in to see us. But in general, those type of trusts, they're the best way to make sure that your home is protected and that you're going to be able to have that house not considered when Medicaid does their calculations, and that you're going to be able to preserve it and protect it for your family members or for the next generation. There are other tools that we use to help protect assets from long-term care. We use things like Medicaid annuities. That's a way to take an asset that would count against you and convert it into an asset that Medicaid can't count against you. Now, the specifics for that are very detailed. It's a little bit more technical than what we would get into today, but it's something that we would talk about if you come in to see us and it looks like something like a Medicaid annuity might work for your situation. We talk in great detail about it, but it's another tool that we use to protect assets and try and make sure that, number one, you get what's coming to you. You've been paying into the system your whole life. If there's a way that we can position your assets so that they're protected and get you covered through Medicaid and Mass Health for your long-term care at the same time, then that's what we want to do. And we use a combination of tools like trusts, like annuities, that we use planning ahead. And then we can also use a combination of some tools that are more done at the time, more crisis planning tools. So we use a combination of both. But if you don't start early enough, we use the ability to use all those tools that might be at our disposal. We're stuck only using the crisis planning tools when if we plan ahead and we start early, we can use all of them. So again, 3 ways to pay for long-term care: insurance, out-of-pocket, Medicaid, Mass Health. Okay, Medicaid trust to protect the house, annuities and other tools that we use to help protect other assets and allow you to be able to pass those on to next generation. So those are some basics about long-term care. Again, when you come in to see us, we talk in a lot more detail about what specific solutions might work for you and for your family. If you're married, we talk about solutions for you and a spouse and the way that your estate plan has to work to cover all of you. We talk about preserving assets for your kids, passing wealth down to the next generation. If you own a business, we talk about ways to pass your business down to the next generation or sell the thing and pass the money down to the next generation. So those are all specific details that we get into when you come and see us. What I will do is I'm going to talk just a little bit about some offers that we're making for people that tuned into the seminar today, so that if you want to come in and see us, we're going to be able to offer you some ways to do that at no cost. But before we do that, why don't we open up to questions? If anybody's got questions, and if not, we'll just move on. But if anybody has questions, you're welcome to turn on your camera or your microphone, shout it out, and Amanda and I will address those. Then we'll talk about some of the other solutions and ways that we can help you. So any questions anybody has at this point?
Well, Mike, this is Lou. I have a question, and this is great info. But would you guys consider like you're the only people like someone needs for estate planning, or do you need to complement that with financial management, tax management, et cetera, like the whole picture?
Yeah, what we do is we handle the legal side of it, but we work with colleagues that handle, we have financial advisors, we have insurance guys and girls, and we have tax advisors. So,
okay.
I know how to deal with estate taxes, right? And we're really good at that. But there are lots of types of taxes, right? There's capital gains taxes, there's income taxes. So we rely on the tax professionals to weigh in on those things. So if we've got a client that comes in and maybe they already have an accountant or they already have a financial advisor, we work hand in hand with any advisors that you have already to make sure that our plan isn't going to conflict with something they did. right? Maybe your financial advisor set up a plan in some way, and we need to know that because we don't want to do anything that's going to, all of a sudden now we're causing you to have, capital gains taxes. So we work hand in hand with any advisors that you have already. And in a situation where we don't have advisors, we can make recommendations for folks that we work with regularly for you to talk to. Because of the changing landscape, especially with things like taxes, state taxes, IRS taxes, year to year, that stuff is different. So it's another one of those things where in order to be good at it, I'm gonna connect you with someone that focuses solely on that. So we stay in our own lane, right? We deal with the estate planning and we deal with estate taxes and long-term care, but now we're talking about capital gains and that sort of thing. We refer that to our tax person. If we're talking about, well, I want to do mutual funds, or how should my IRA be invested and that sort of thing, we've got financial advisors that we can refer you to answer questions like that. So we definitely collaborate because any one person that tells you they know everything about all those things, I haven't met him or her yet, if that person exists. So does that answer your question, Lou?
Perfect, thank you.
All right, of course. Any other questions anybody's got? Let's see, I'm just making sure no one typed anything into the chat or anything. All right, I don't see anything yet. So before I move on to the planning session stuff, Amanda, anything I missed?
I don't think so, no.
All right, that's great. So for someone to come in and have a session with us, the way our process works is we send you some information for you to fill out ahead of time. Everything from your basic, are you married? Do you have kids? How old are they? Basic family makeup, and then information about your finances as well. The reason we do that is so that we can prepare ahead of time for your meeting. And when you come in to sit down with us for that hour, we're not wasting your time asking you, what are your kids' names? When were they born? Where do they live? How old are they? All that stuff. We have all that ahead of time so that by the time you come in, we've already got our wheels turning as far as what might work for you. Now we adjust that based on the meeting, but we know specifically at that point, before you even walk through the door, what more information do we need? What do we need to ask you a little bit more about? And what can we do for you? The other thing that we do, because we get financial info up front, is we run your tax numbers for estate taxes. So once you come in and see us, we're able to share that information with you on the spot. Here's what your estate tax number would look like, if any, if you have one, and here's what we could do about it. Here's how we could change it. Here's what we could knock it down to, with these various tools. The other thing is some people have existing documents and they like us to take a look at their existing will or power of attorney. We do that before the meeting as well. We're definitely not a group that just says, well, if we didn't write the document, then it's junk. We do give documents a fair shake. So if someone's coming to see us about a trust, but we look at their will and we review it and their will is okay, we tell them it's okay. And we focus on maybe what we need to supplement an existing plan that they have. And then there are times we have to tell them, like, the will is either too old or their trust is a wrong type of trust to protect the house and we need to do something different. So we review wills, trusts, any other estate planning documents that you have, and we review those ahead of time so that when you come in, we're ready to tell you what's right with them, and in some situations what's wrong with them, and whether they need to be addressed, whether they need to be fixed, if they need to be fixed through amendments or through a restart. But we really do give them a fair shake for anything that you have us look at ahead of time, and we tell you, what the problems are, if there are any, and if they're great, we tell you they're great, and we focus on other things. Because of the preparation that we have to put into a meeting, what we have to do ahead of time, then spend the hour with you, and then we spend a couple of hours afterwards sitting down with our notes and the information from the session so that we can provide you with custom recommendations. A lot of time goes into this, both before the meeting, during the meeting, and after. Because of that, we do charge for our meetings, for our we call them strategic planning sessions, and that's your initial meeting with us. It's different from a free consult that you might get somewhere, because a free consult tends to just be that. It's a 1 hour meeting where you come in, They spend the first half hour asking you for your name and address and phone number information, and then gathering information without really telling you anything. Whereas we prepare ahead and then have the meeting and provide you with solutions afterwards. At the end of the process, you've got a clear plan of how to go forward. You've got a clear strategy of what to do next to protect your assets and protect your family. But one of the things that we decided to do is for anybody that joined the seminar today and decided that they were going to stick it out till the very, very end, we're going to offer that session free of charge. So that session normally costs $299. We're going to offer that free of charge for anybody that wants to take advantage of it. The caveat is that anybody that's going to sign up and get the free session, we're going to tell you how to do it, but you need to sign up for it today. And you need to sign up for a session that's going to happen within the next 30 days. So we can't have you sign up today for a session that's going to be in a year and a half. But if you sign up today, and we'll tell you how to do it, and your session is going to be within the next 30 days, we're going to provide you with that session for free. And even though that session is free, you're still going to get exactly the same as what the people that have a paid session. You're going to get the preparation from us ahead of time, review of any of your existing documents, running of your tax numbers. Then you'll get the hour meeting, and then you're going to get the same strategy letter afterwards that we're going to give out to you, where we present you with the different tools and different options of what we could do, what it costs, and how we can benefit you. How can we knock your estate tax number down, and how we can protect your assets. So a couple of ways for you to do that. For anybody that's interested in booking the session, you can call the office. So our number, for anybody that doesn't have it, it's on the website, but the phone number is 978-657-7437. Our website is montefortelaw.com. You can go there. Our contact information is there. You can email us or contact us through filling out a form on our website as well. But the best way to book the session would be either to call the office, or we have a specific website that's used just for booking a session with us. So I'm going to make sure I get this right. The website is bookmyplanningsession.com, and you can book the appointment online. So you can book, you'll have access to our calendar, you can book the appointment online, you can do it that way, or you can feel free to call us. And again, that $299 charge for that session will be waived. So that's two ways that you can book the session. The other thing that we're doing is for anybody that wants more information, I have 3 books that I have written on estate planning and elder law. And we are going to provide copies of those books to anybody that wants them free of charge. Okay, so anybody that wants the books, I'll just flash them in front of the camera real quick. So the first one is Planning Ahead. This one is Details about Estate Planning and Elder Law. Then my second book that I wrote a little over a year ago is called The Long Game. This one's about long-term care. Some of the stuff that I talked about during the seminar today, how to pay for long-term care, solutions for long-term care, Medicaid, Mass Health. There's a lot of great information there. And then the third book that I wrote at the beginning of this year is for business owners. So if you own a business, this is specific for estate planning for business owners. It's been my experience that business owners are the worst at doing their planning. They get so busy doing their day-to-day and running the business that they forget to do this stuff. So that book is specific to business owners that need help with their estate planning. But we have the books available for, they can be downloaded from the website, or if you call and give us your mailing address, we'll send you hard copies out for free. But they're full of lots of good information, a little bit more detailed than what kind of we had time to get into today. So you can call us and request those. We'll send them out to you. We have a space on the website where you can order my first book, Planning Ahead. That website is theplanningaheadbook.com. But really, if you just call us and tell us, we'll send you all the books. We have additional reports and resources that we can include with that as well. So the easiest way to do it is just call us and say, hey, I was on the seminar, I want the book. And we'll take the mailing information and we'll get it out to you. We can book a planning session for you at the same time if that's what you want to do. Or again, you can go ahead and book it online at the website. It's bookmyplanningsession.com. That will give you direct access to the calendar, and you can actually book the session online. When you book online, that's going to prompt some emails to come to you to tell you what you need to do to prepare for the session. So be on the lookout for those. If you do book online, sometimes those emails can end up in your junk folder. So if you don't get anything within the first really 15, 20 minutes, give us a shout and let us know so that we make sure that you get those. And like I said, you can reach out to us. Hey, I booked and I didn't get any emails, and we'll talk through it and make sure that you get them so that you're prepared for the session and so that we can prepare for your session as well. So with that, unless there are any other questions, we'll wrap up. Again, call the office, go on the website. You can book either way. Just make sure if you want to take advantage of the free session that you do that today so that we make sure that we get you enrolled. All right, so someone did ask in the chat, can these sessions be virtual? So yes, they can. We're more than happy to do sessions in person or by Zoom just like this. So you can have multiple, sometimes we get husband and wife and one's at work and one's home, or they're both at work. So you can be in different locations. We just set it up as a Zoom meeting. You can join from wherever you are. You get the exact same session that you do here at the office. You don't get to look around and see, see our cool fish tank and that sort of thing. But we'll absolutely we do them online if that's easier for you. All right. If there are no other questions, we'll wrap up. And like I said, if you want to take advantage of that, just make sure you call or go on the website today so that you book the session and we can get you set up for the free one. We talk a lot more in detail about this stuff once we know more about you. So please go ahead and do that. Take advantage of it. Questions, anything come up, just reach out to us. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Call the office if you have questions. Amanda and I are happy to help. That's what we're here for. It's what we do. So take advantage, get the free session, come in and see, and get that strategy for what to do moving forward. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks a lot everyone for attending. We appreciate it. Just give us a call.